I came back from my run to see my wife loading our kids into a stranger's van. The white cargo van wasn't supposed to be in our driveway. I spotted it as I rounded the corner, still half a block from home. My running pace slowed instinctively. The vehicle had no markings, no company logo, just plain white paint with rust spots near the wheels. Then I saw Rachel lifting Lily through the side door, our daughter's pink backpack swinging from her shoulder. Max stood beside her, clutching his dinosaur, staring up at someone I couldn't see. My wife's movements were urgent, like she was racing against time. I started sprinting, sweat turning cold on my skin. Everything about the scene screamed wrong, but Rachel wasn't struggling. She was helping load our children into that van. 50 feet away, I saw the man. He stood near the driver's door, eyes scanning the street. When his gaze found me, he said something to Rachel. Her head whipped around, and our eyes met. What I saw stopped me cold. Not relief, not fear of him, terror of me. She pulled Lily closer, wrapping protective arms around our daughter. Max grabbed her leg. The stranger stepped between us, his posture defensive but controlled. "Rachel!" I shouted, closing the distance. "What's happening? Who is this?" My voice cracked. 20 feet separated us now. Close enough to see tears on my wife's face, Lily's confusion, Max's white knuckles gripping his toy. Not close enough to stop whatever this was. I reached our driveway, hands raised, chest heaving. "Someone tell me what's going on. Rachel, why are you putting our kids in this van?" The man spoke first, voice unnaturally calm. "Mr. Briggs, you need to step back. Let your wife leave peacefully." Leave? The word made no sense. We'd eaten breakfast together this morning, laughed about Lily's imaginary friend, made weekend plans. She'd kissed me before my run, told me to be careful at the intersection. That was 45 minutes ago. Now my family was being loaded into a stranger's van, while this man told me to step back. "Rachel, please," I said, focusing only on her. "Talk to me. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Just don't take the kids." Her voice came out barely above a whisper, but every word hit like a hammer. "I have to protect them, Nathan. From you." The statement hung impossible in the air. Protect them from me? I coached Max's soccer team, read bedtime stories every night, never raised my hand to anyone. "What are you talking about? Protect them from what?" But she was already climbing into the van with both kids. The man circled to the driver's side, never breaking eye contact with me. I lunged forward as the engine started. "You can't do this! Rachel! Lily! Max!" My daughter pressed her face into Rachel's shoulder, crying. Max stared at me through the window with frightened eyes. My hand slapped uselessly against metal as the van backed down the driveway. I stood alone in my driveway watching the van disappear. My legs threatened to give out. The encounter had lasted 90 seconds. 90 seconds for everything to shatter. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Rachel. 4 rings, then voicemail. Her recorded voice sounded so normal, it felt like being punched. "Call me back. Please, Rachel. Tell me what's happening." I dialed again. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. On the 4th attempt, I realized she'd turned her phone off, or blocked me. Police. I needed to call the police. My children had just been taken by a stranger. The 911 operator answered immediately. "My wife just left with our children," I said, words tumbling out. "A man, a stranger, took them in a white van, maybe 2 minutes ago, heading east on Maple Drive." Keys clicked in the background. "Sir, you said your wife left with your children?" "Yes, but there was a man I've never seen driving. I don't know who he is or where they're going." More typing. "Has there been a domestic dispute? Are you and your wife having problems?" The question felt like a trap. "No, everything was fine this morning. I went for a run and came back to this. She won't answer her phone. My daughter is 5, my son is 7. Please find them." The operator's tone shifted, becoming cautious. "I'm sending an officer to your location. Stay at your residence, Mr. Briggs. Someone will be there within 10 minutes. After she took down details, I hung up and stood staring at where the van had been. Mrs. Chen next door watered her garden like it was just another Saturday, but my children were gone. Inside, everything looked normal. Max's Lego spaceship half-built on the coffee table. Lily's coloring book spread across the floor. Rachel's coffee mug on the counter. Lipstick stain on the rim. Everything a lie. I called Rachel's parents. Her mother answered cheerfully. "Nathan, how are you? Susan, is Rachel there? Are the kids with you?" Silence, then carefully. "Why would they be here? She just left with some man in a van. I thought maybe she went to your place." Another pause, longer this time. "I haven't heard from Rachel today, but if she left, I'm sure she had her reasons." The careful neutrality in her voice made something click. "You knew, she told you. I think you should wait for the police, Nathan. I can't help you." She hung up. The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 officers, a woman with steel gray hair and a younger man with a notebook. They approached slowly, carefully, like I was dangerous. "Mr. Briggs, I'm Officer Delgado. This is Officer Yates. Can we come inside?" I led them in, gesturing at the evidence of normal family life. "My wife took our kids 20 minutes ago. A man I've never seen was driving. White cargo van, heading east on Maple." Delgado sat on Rachel's spot on the couch. "What happened before that? What led up to your wife leaving?" "Nothing. I went for my Saturday run. When I came back, she was loading them into the van. I tried to stop her, but she said—" I stopped, knowing how it would sound. "What did she say?" Yates asked, pen ready. "She said she had to protect them from me, but I haven't done anything. Everything was normal this morning." The officers exchanged a glance. I watched my situation shift in real time. I wasn't a father whose children were taken. I was a suspect. "Has there been violence in the home? Arguments?" Delgado asked. "No. Normal disagreements. Nothing serious. Nothing that would make her run." Yates kept writing. "Have you been drinking? Any medications?" "What? No, I was running." "Why aren't you looking for my kids?" Delgado leaned forward. "We need to understand the full situation. Has your wife seemed scared of you? Nervous?" The questions kept coming, each one painting me darker. Was I controlling? Did I monitor her phone? Had the children seemed afraid? Had neighbors reported anything? I answered honestly, but I could feel the narrative forming. My confusion and desperation were being reinterpreted as something sinister. Finally, Delgado stood. "Mr. Briggs, your wife has the right to leave with her children if she feels unsafe. We can't force her back. But she's with a stranger. Some man I've never met. Was there indication she was being coerced? That she didn't want to go?" I thought back. Rachel's urgent movements, her terror when she saw me, how she'd protected the kids from me, not the stranger. "No," I admitted quietly. "She went willingly." Yates closed his notebook. "If you have joint custody and no court order preventing it, she hasn't committed a crime. This is domestic." They left after taking my statement, promising to watch for the van but making clear this wasn't their priority. My wife hadn't been kidnapped. My children were with their mother. Nothing criminal occurred. I was just a husband whose wife left him. I stood in my living room trying to make sense of it. Protect them from me. What had I done? What did Rachel think I'd done? I replayed recent weeks, searching for clues. A money disagreement last Monday. Resolved quickly. I'd snapped at Max for spilling juice on my laptop, but apologized immediately. Rachel had seemed withdrawn lately, but I'd thought it was work stress. Had I missed something crucial? My phone rang, sending my heart racing. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Briggs? This is Diana Wolfe, an attorney representing your wife." The professional tone made everything suddenly more real and terrifying. "Where are my children? Is Rachel okay?" "Your wife and children are safe in a secure location. I'm calling to inform you that Mrs. Briggs is filing for divorce and seeking full custody. We're also pursuing a restraining order." The words hit like physical blows. Divorce, full custody, restraining order. On what grounds? What am I supposed to have done? "I can't discuss specifics. You'll receive official documentation shortly. Until then, you're to have no contact with your wife or children. Any attempts will be documented and used in court." "You can't do this. I have rights." "You'll have opportunity to contest in court. But for now, the restraining order is being filed. Stay away. If you have an attorney, contact them immediately." She hung up. I threw my phone across the room. Restraining order. They were getting a restraining order against me. Sunday morning arrived without mercy. I hadn't slept. The doorbell rang at 9. Process server with a bored expression handed me an envelope. "Nathan Briggs, you've been served." Inside were papers, making my nightmare official. Petition for divorce, emergency restraining order, custody petition, and Rachel's statement detailing a marriage I didn't recognize. According to this document, I was controlling, manipulative, emotionally abusive. I monitored her movements, isolated her from friends, had frightening mood swings, made veiled threats. The children feared me. She'd never been hit, the statement acknowledged, but she feared I might. Emotional abuse was escalating. She'd documented incidents over 6 months with dates, times, specific examples. A night I'd allegedly screamed at her for talking to a male colleague. A time I'd supposedly smashed a plate during an argument. When I'd supposedly grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise. None of it was true. But reading it laid out in legal language with dates and details, it sounded horribly convincing. I tried remembering the dates. March 14th, when I supposedly became enraged, she was 10 minutes late. I'd been out of town at a conference. June 3rd, when I'd allegedly thrown her phone across the room. We'd been at Lily's dance recital all evening. August 20th, when I'd supposedly threatened her about leaving. We'd spent that weekend at the beach with the kids. I had photographs, receipts, evidence, but none of that mattered now because I had a restraining order and my children were gone. The hearing was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks of not seeing Max and Lily. 3 weeks of Rachel telling her story unchallenged. 3 weeks of being the monster in someone else's narrative. I found a lawyer willing to meet that afternoon. Gerald Ashford had an office above a tax preparation service. He looked tired, disheveled, more interested in the fee than the case, but he was available. I explained everything: the run, the van, Rachel's terror, police treating me like a suspect, the attorney's threats. Ashford listened, taking occasional notes. When I finished, he leaned back. In family court, the mother usually has the advantage, especially claiming fear for safety. Doesn't matter if it's true. If she makes the claim, the court tends to believe it. But I haven't done anything. Doesn't matter. What matters is what she says you did, or what she's afraid you might do. The system protects women and children, which is good in genuine cases, but it can be weaponized. He pulled out a legal pad. She'll file for a restraining order, and a judge will likely grant it temporarily. You'll have a hearing in weeks where you can present your side. Until then, you can't contact her, can't go near the kids. If you do, you'll be arrested. So, I just lose my children for weeks? If you want them back, yes. Because if you violate that order, you prove her point that you're dangerous, and you lose them permanently. The injustice burned. What do I do? Document everything. Every interaction, conversation, text message. Stay clean, stay calm, and wait. I left with a $3,000 retainer paid and instructions to wait. Wait while my children were with a stranger. Wait while Rachel told whatever story she was telling. Wait while my life crumbled. Monday, Child Protective Services called. Mr. Briggs, this is Stephanie Marsh from CPS. I need to schedule a meeting with you. My stomach dropped. Why is CPS involved? Your wife filed a report expressing concerns about the children's safety in your care. We're required to investigate. I'd like to come to your home tomorrow at 10. CPS. Rachel was building a case that I was actual danger to my children. Stephanie Marsh arrived exactly on time. A woman with kind eyes and tired expression. She looked around carefully, taking notes on everything. The cleanliness, the children's rooms, family photos on walls. Tell me about your relationship with your children, she said at the kitchen table. I love them. They're everything to me. I coach Max's soccer team, read to Lily every night, game nights on Fridays. I've never hurt them, would never hurt them. Your wife claims you've been emotionally abusive, that the children witnessed your behavior toward her. None of that's true. I have proof some incidents she described never happened. I was out of town, or we were somewhere else. I can show you. I pulled out the evidence I'd compiled. Marsh looked through it carefully, expression neutral. These dates don't match the report, but emotional abuse isn't always about specific incidents. It's about patterns, atmospheres, constant low-level fear. Ask our neighbors, her friends, anyone who knows us. I plan to, Marsh said. But Mr. Briggs, in my experience, when a mother flees the way your wife did, there's usually something real behind it. Maybe not what she's claiming exactly, but something. She thought I'd done something. She just wasn't sure what. Days blurred together. Work became impossible. I took family leave. Calls came that made everything worse. Rachel's mother said I should accept the divorce and walk away. Rachel's sister said she'd always known something was wrong with me. Friends stopped returning messages. Neighbors crossed the street to avoid me. Rachel's story was spreading, and I was being convicted before I could defend myself. The only bright spot was Max's coach calling to say he'd submitted his statement to my lawyer. I don't know what's going on in your marriage, Nathan, but you're a good father. I've seen you with Max. Someone believed me. Someone saw truth. 10 days after Rachel left, my phone rang at 3 a.m. Unknown number. Hello? Nathan? Rachel's voice. After silence, voicemail, blocked calls, she was actually talking. Rachel! God, Rachel, where are you? Are the kids okay? Listen carefully. I don't have much time. I need you to stop fighting the restraining order. The request was absurd. Stop fighting? You took my children. You lied. Why would I stop? Because you don't understand what's happening. If you keep pushing, it gets worse for everyone. Then explain. Make me understand. Long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, scared in a way I'd never heard. I can't explain. Not on the phone. But Nathan, please, trust me. Drop the custody fight. Let me have the divorce. Stop investigating. Walk away. Walk away from my children? Never. Who was that man? Where are you staying? I can't tell you. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. So sorry for this, but you have to stop. No, not until I get my kids back. Not until you tell me the truth. Shaky breath. Then a man's voice in the background, muffled but urgent. The same voice from the driveway. Rachel's tone changed, became colder. Then you'll have to live with the consequences. I tried to warn you. She hung up. I tried calling back, but the number was blocked. I sat in the dark, trying to decode what happened. Rachel sounded genuinely frightened. She'd called to warn me, ask me to stop fighting. But warn me about what? The call felt like gift and threat simultaneously. 2 days before the hearing, an unknown number called. Not Rachel. A man's voice. Mr. Briggs, my name is Kevin Torres. I'm a private investigator. I think we should meet. Why? Who hired you? Nobody. But I've been watching your case. I think you need help your lawyer can't provide. There's a coffee shop on Main Street. I'll be there at 5. He hung up. Every instinct said, trap, setup, another way for Rachel's side to gather evidence, but I was desperate enough to risk it. Torres was sitting at a corner table, weathered face and sharp eyes. Mr. Briggs, thank you for coming. Why are you interested in my case? I remained standing. Because your wife isn't who you think she is. That man in the van isn't a stranger. His name is Michael Voss. 6 months ago, he was investigated for identity theft and fraud. Charges didn't stick, but he's been on law enforcement radar for years. I sat slowly. How do you know this? I was investigating him for something else when your wife's name appeared in connection with his. She met him 4 months ago. They've been in regular contact since. 4 months ago. Before any alleged incidents. Before she supposedly became afraid. What kind of contact? Financial. She's been moving money. Small amounts at first, then larger. From your joint accounts into accounts you don't know about. Over $80,000 in 3 months. The number hit me like a physical blow. That's impossible, I would have noticed. Torres slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements I'd never seen. Transfers I'd never authorized. My signature forged on documents. She's been planning this for months. The abuse allegations, the restraining order, taking the kids. It's all designed to keep you occupied while she disappears with your money. Why are you telling me this? Because Voss burned me on a previous case. Cost me a client and nearly my license. I want him exposed, and helping you helps me get him. He pulled out another document. This is the address where your wife is staying, and this is the name of the organization helping her. It's called Safe Haven Network, a domestic violence shelter. That's what they call themselves. But they've been investigated multiple times for helping women fabricate abuse claims to gain custody and financial advantage. They coach them on what to say, how to document fake incidents, which lawyers to use. It's an industry, Mr. Briggs. Your wife paid them $15,000 for their services. I stared at the documents, my hands shaking. Everything, the coordinated story, the perfect legal strategy, the detailed allegations. It wasn't Rachel acting alone. It was an organized operation. What do I do with this? You take it to your hearing, you expose them, and you get your kids back before they disappear completely. Because that's the end game. Once the divorce is finalized and she has full custody, she and Voss will take your children somewhere you'll never find them. The hearing was in 2 days. 2 days to prepare for a battle I hadn't known I was fighting. I spent those days with Ashford going through Torres's evidence, the financial records showing the money transfers, the connection between Rachel and Voss, the information about Safe Haven Network's history of questionable cases. This changes everything, Ashford said, but his expression was cautious. But we need to be careful how we present it. If we come in making wild accusations without solid proof, it makes you look unstable and proves Rachel's point that you're dangerous. But we have proof. Bank statements, connection to Voss, the organization's history. We have pieces. We need to connect them in a way the judge can't ignore. The hearing arrived like a storm I'd been watching approach for weeks. The family court was smaller than I expected, less imposing. But when I walked in and saw Rachel sitting at the other table with her lawyer, the weight of it hit me. She looked different, thinner, paler, like she hadn't been sleeping. When our eyes met, I saw something I hadn't expected. Not defiance or hatred. Fear. Real, genuine fear. The judge was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything. She reviewed the restraining order first, then looked at me. Mr. Briggs, you're contesting these allegations? Yes, Your Honor. Everything in that statement is false. I have evidence showing I wasn't even present for some of the incidents claimed. Ashford presented the conference receipts, the beach photos, the dance recital program, each piece of evidence clearly contradicting Rachel's timeline. The judge examined them carefully. Mrs. Briggs, how do you explain these discrepancies? Rachel's lawyer stood. Your Honor, My client has been living in fear for months. Some confusion about specific dates is understandable given her psychological state. These aren't minor date confusions, the judge said sharply. These are completely different events on different days. Mr. Briggs has proof he was in another state during one alleged incident. Rachel's lawyer shifted tactics. The specific incidents may be misremembered, but the pattern of emotional abuse is well documented. My client's fear is real. Then let's talk about why Mrs. Briggs felt the need to flee, Ashford said, standing. Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that this wasn't a spontaneous escape from an abusive situation. This was a calculated plan involving financial fraud and coordination with a known criminal. Rachel's lawyer objected immediately, but the judge allowed it. Ashford presented Torres's evidence, the bank statements showing transfers, the connection to Michael Voss, the information about Safe Haven Network. Rachel's face went pale as each piece was revealed. Your Honor, Mrs. Briggs has systematically stolen over $80,000 from joint accounts while fabricating abuse allegations. She's working with Michael Voss, who has a history of fraud, and an organization that's been investigated for coaching women to make false claims. These are serious accusations, Mr. Ashford, the judge said. Do you have concrete proof linking Mrs. Briggs to Mr. Voss and this organization? We have financial records showing payments to Safe Haven Network. We have phone records showing regular contact with Voss starting 4 months ago. We have witness statements that these events Mrs. Briggs described never occurred as claimed. The judge turned to Rachel. Mrs. Briggs, did you make payments to an organization called Safe Haven Network? Rachel looked at her lawyer, then back at the judge. I sought help from an organization that supports women leaving abusive situations. That's not a crime. Did you transfer funds from joint accounts without your husband's knowledge? Silence. Rachel's lawyer whispered something to her. Finally, Rachel said, I was preparing to leave. I was securing resources for my children's safety. By forging his signature on bank documents? Ashford pressed. By moving money he had no idea was missing until a private investigator discovered it. Enough, the judge said. I'm ordering a full financial audit and a proper CPS investigation, not the preliminary one already conducted. Mrs. Briggs, who is Michael Voss? Rachel's composure cracked. He's a friend who's been helping me. A friend with a criminal history who happened to be driving the van you used to take the children? The judge removed her glasses. I'm not satisfied that the restraining order was properly granted based on this evidence. The allegations appear unreliable at best, fabricated at worst. Your Honor, Rachel's lawyer stood desperately. My client is terrified. Whatever mistakes she may have made financially, her fear is genuine. Then she can explain that fear right now, the judge said. Mrs. Briggs, I'm giving you an opportunity to tell the truth. What are you actually afraid of? Rachel sat frozen, tears streaming down her face. Finally, she whispered, I can't or won't. He'll kill me if I tell you. The courtroom went silent. Who will kill you, Mrs. Briggs? The judge asked gently. Michael, Rachel said, her voice breaking. Michael Voss. He said if I didn't go through with this, if I didn't get the money, he'd kill me and the children. He has people watching. He knows I'm here. He knows everything. The confession spilled out. Voss had approached her 4 months ago, claiming he had information about my supposed affairs and financial crimes. He'd convinced her I was dangerous, that she needed to leave. Then he'd offered to help, for a price. When she'd tried to back out, he'd threatened her family, showed her what he knew about them, forced her to participate in the financial scheme. The abuse allegations were scripted by Safe Haven Network, who weren't helping victims. They were running an extortion operation. He has videos of me moving the money, Rachel sobbed. He said if I didn't finish this, didn't get full custody, and the divorce settlement, he'd release them, and I'd go to prison. The kids would go to foster care. I didn't know what else to do. The judge's expression hardened. Bailiff, I want Michael Voss located and brought in immediately. Mrs. Briggs, you're going to provide every detail about this operation. Rachel nodded, defeated and relieved simultaneously. She looked at me finally, really looked at me. I'm sorry, Nathan, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I was so scared. The next hours were chaos. Police were called. Rachel gave a full statement about Voss, Safe Haven Network, the coercion, everything. Turns out she wasn't their first victim. They'd been running this scheme for years, targeting vulnerable women and convincing them their marriages were dangerous. Then, extorting money through fabricated legal cases. Voss was arrested that evening trying to leave the state. In his possession were files on dozens of women, scripts for abuse allegations, forged documents, and evidence of the entire operation. Safe Haven Network's directors were arrested within days. The restraining order was dissolved immediately. The judge granted me temporary full custody while Rachel underwent evaluation, but made clear she wasn't the villain here. She was another victim of Voss's manipulation. "Mr. Briggs," the judge said before we left, "take your children home. And Mrs. Briggs, you'll have supervised visitation until we sort through this mess. But I believe you were coerced, and that will be taken into account." I picked up Max and Lily from the facility where they'd been staying that same evening. When they saw me, they ran into my arms crying, "Daddy, we missed you!" Lily sobbed into my shoulder. Max held on so tight I could barely breathe. "Mom said you were sick and we couldn't see you. She was crying all the time. Is everything okay now?" "Everything's going to be okay," I promised, and for the first time in 3 weeks, I believed it. Rachel stood in the doorway watching us, supervised by a social worker. Our eyes met over the children's heads. There was so much to repair, so much trust to rebuild. Maybe we'd never be a family the same way again, but we were free from Voss, free from the lies, and our children were safe. That night, I read bedtime stories in voices I'd worried I'd never get to use again. Max fell asleep holding my hand. Lily made me promise I'd never leave. "Never," I whispered. "I fought to come back to you. I'll always fight for you." 3 weeks had felt like a lifetime, but we'd survived, and sometimes that's enough.